You walk into a crowded room. Someone smiles, extends a hand, and says their name. You shake hands, repeat the name, and within 10 seconds, it's gone. Vanished. But here's the strange part. 3 years later, you'll spot that person in a grocery store and instantly know their face. You might even remember where you met them. The name, though, still a ghost. This isn't a personal failing. It's not early memory loss. And it's not because you weren't paying attention. The real answer is far stranger. And it's buried deep inside your skull in a piece of ancient mental machinery you never asked for. Your brain is not a single computer. It's a collection of specialized tools, each one shaped by millions of years of survival pressure. And one of those tools is so finely tuned that it borders on obsession: the face detector. Long before your ancestors had language, long before they had names, they had faces. Recognizing a face in a split second meant knowing whether the creature in front of you was friend, foe, or food. Get it wrong, and you might not get another chance. So natural selection built a dedicated chunk of neural real estate just for faces. Neuroscientist Nancy Kanwisher and her colleagues identified this region in the late 1990s. They called it the fusiform face area, or FFA. It sits in the temporal lobe, and it lights up like a bonfire whenever you see a face. Real, drawn, even a crude smiley face on a piece of paper. The FFA doesn't care about names. It cares about identity, emotion, and intent, all read from the arrangement of eyes, nose, and mouth. Now think about what a name actually is. A name is a random string of sounds, a linguistic label invented by humans only in the last few tens of thousands of years. It has no inherent meaning. The word Sarah doesn't tell you if Sarah is dangerous, kind, or carrying food. It's just a tag. And your brain, still operating on Stone Age priorities, treats meaningless tags as low-priority clutter. This is not a bug. It's a feature that was never updated because, until very recently, it never needed to be. For 99% of human history, you didn't need to remember 100 names at a networking event. You needed to remember faces in your tribe of maybe 50 people, and you needed to read those faces instantly. There's a famous experiment that exposes this mismatch perfectly. It's often called the Baker-Baker paradox. Researchers gave people a face and either a surname, Baker, or a profession, baker. When the word was a surname, recall was terrible. When it was a profession, recall soared. Why? Because baker as a job connects to a rich web of meaning. Flour, apron, early mornings, the smell of bread. Your brain can hook that onto existing knowledge. Baker, as a name, is a hollow sound, untethered from anything. The study, led by psychologists Catherine McWeeny and Andrew Young along with their colleagues, showed that names are among the hardest words to learn because they're essentially arbitrary. Your brain resists storing information that doesn't connect to something useful for survival or social navigation. And a name by itself offers neither. But faces do. A face tells you age, sex, emotional state, and whether this person is looking directly at you. That last part is critical. Direct eye contact triggers an ancient alarm system. If someone is staring at you, your brain wants to know why. And it wants to know now. So faces get VIP treatment. They bypass the usual sensory cues. They're processed holistically, meaning your brain takes in the whole configuration at once rather than piece by piece. That's why you can recognize a familiar face even if it's partially obscured, upside down, or seen from a distance. Try doing that with a name written on a card. You can't because words are processed sequentially, not holistically. Your brain never evolved a name area. It did evolve a face area. This bias gets even stronger when you look at faces from your own racial or ethnic group. Psychologists Roy Malpass and Jerome Krevitz documented the cross-race effect back in 1969. People are significantly better at recognizing faces of their own race. Again, this isn't about prejudice in the modern sense. It's about perceptual expertise. Your visual system becomes a specialist in the kinds of faces you saw most during childhood. In the ancestral environment, Almost everyone you met looked like your kin. An unfamiliar face from a distant group could signal an outsider, a potential threat. Your brain learned to process in-group faces with higher resolution, because those were the ones that mattered most for daily cooperation and conflict. Names, of course, don't get any of this preferential treatment. They don't have races, they don't have expressions. They're just sounds. And sounds fade unless they're tied to something vivid. So what happens when you meet someone new? Your brain is frantically doing two things at once. First, it's running the face through the FFA, checking for familiarity, scanning for micro expressions, assessing trustworthiness in a tenth of a second. Second, it's trying to store the name. But the name has to pass through your phonological loop, a short-term auditory buffer that holds sounds for a few seconds. If you don't actively rehearse that name, it crumbles. Meanwhile, the face is already encoded in long-term memory, linked to the context and any emotional reaction you had. That's why you can meet a dozen people at a party and walk away with a head full of faces and zero names. Your brain simply didn't think the names were worth the energy. But here's the twist. Your brain isn't wrong. It's just calibrated for a world that no longer exists. In the savannah, if you saw a face you didn't recognize, your survival might depend on remembering it, either to avoid that person or to find them again for help. If you forgot a name, it didn't matter because you probably never had one in the first place. Early human groups likely used descriptive labels, not arbitrary names. You might have been called tall hunter or woman who finds honey. Those labels had meaning. They were more like professions than modern names. So your brain is still waiting for the meaningful label. And when it hears Bob, it shrugs and moves on. Today, you live in a world of strangers, business cards, and social media profiles where names are currency. Your ancient brain is being asked to do something it was never designed to do, and it's failing in predictable ways. The good news is you can trick it. If you want to remember a name, you must make it meaningful. Connect it to an image, a story, something sensory. If you meet a woman named Rose, picture a rose blooming out of her head. That gives your brain a visual hook, and visuals are what it craves. If you meet a man named Bill, imagine a duckbill on his face. It sounds absurd, but absurdity is memorable. Your brain remembers the unusual. It forgets the ordinary. And a plain name is the most ordinary thing in the room. So the next time you forget a name 2 seconds after hearing it, don't blame yourself. Blame a lineage of survivors who never needed to know what to call each other, only who to trust and who to run from. Your brain is a masterpiece of ancient engineering, perfectly adapted for a world of faces and feelings, not labels and lists. You are not broken. You are just carrying old software into a new world. And that old software will keep you safe by making sure you never forget a face. The name? It'll vanish like smoke. But the face will stay with you forever, just like it did for your ancestors. And that's exactly why you're still here.